Still see a few folks joining in, so we'll kick off in just a minute here. Thank you, everybody who's already hopped in for this morning. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get rolling. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today, we've got an exciting session planned with Tim Glen and James Cox. They're going to walk us through how our customers are achieving zero trust outcomes with Cisco technologies like Secure Cloud Control, Secure Access, and Duo. For those that are joining us for the first time, this is actually part of a larger webinar series called the Philly Trusted Advisor Program. So if you wanted to see past sessions, if you wanted to see upcoming sessions, you can always visit our website. You can scan that QR code that's shown on the screen, or just metrophillyselect.com. Just as a quick update before we jump in, there's a few upcoming events in the region. Both of the events that you see on the screen will be hosted at the Conshohocken Brewing Company. On October 21st, there will be a session with a hands-on lab around Zero Trust Network Access. And then on the 28th, join us again for an overview of Nexus and UCS, also a very hands-on workshop. Our next TAP session will be October 31st, so keep a lookout for that invite as well as the agenda. At this time, I'll go ahead and hand over to Tim and James to walk us through the content for today.
Hey, thanks very much, Josh. I appreciate you folks giving me the opportunity to talk about Cisco Cloud Security and Zero Trust and how we do it. I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll start out with a few slides before we jump into the demo. So, sure, cool. So again, let's swap displays. Awesome. So again, my name's Tim Glen. I've been at Cisco for about 6 years. I've been a security solutions engineer for about 9 months. Prior to being a security solutions engineer, I was a peer of Josh's on Ron's team, and now I'm a security solutions engineer, and James is my peer. And I'm excited to talk to you folks today about security cloud control and some of the other cloud security products that Cisco offers and how we implement zero trust. So if you haven't seen Security Cloud Control yet, Security Cloud Control is the manager of all Cisco SaaS security products. So this is the dashboard when you first log into Security Cloud Control. If you look on the left-hand side, you see these are the products that I have in my Security Cloud Control, right? I've got AI Defense, which helps us secure our LLM models. I've got Firewall, which is Cisco's cloud-delivered firewall management center. I've got Multi-Cloud Defense, which helps secure which helps secure our cloud firewall environments, right? A single manager for cloud firewall. And I've got Secure Access, which is the primary building block of our zero trust network access pool. In the middle here, you'll see I've got 4 firewalls configured in my security cloud control. All of them are online. None of them have issues, right? I've got, if you look over in the, let me just pull out my laser pointer. If you look over here on the right-hand side, I've got 3 VPN tunnels set up. 2 of those 3 are active, right? They're passing traffic already. The third is idle. That's a standby tunnel, right? So it's up, but it's just not passing traffic. Down here, I show a couple of my firewalls, or 3 of my firewalls are not synced. They recently got a VDB update, and I just haven't deployed that update to them yet. One of them is synced. We'll show more, we'll show a demo of security cloud control in just a few moments. Like I said, security cloud control is the manager of all Cisco security cloud products, right? So security cloud control is able to manage our hardware firewall appliances. It's also able to manage our software firewall appliances, whether they're in the cloud or an on-prem data center. It's able to manage cloud delivered secure workload, which is what we used to call tetration, right? That is our data center microsegmentation solution. It's able to manage AI defense. It's able to manage secure access. More recently, it's able to manage our enterprise and our data center switches. We're able to push firewall policy to our Nexus and Catalyst switches, because our switches now have either DPUs in them in our Nexus line or NPUs in our Catalyst line. We're able to push firewall policy from a single control point right to the switch port, right? This is what we call hybrid mesh firewall. We're able to push policy to a number of different enforcement points, all from a single policy engine, right? Super, super powerful. How do we get our products into secure cloud control? Well, after you've bought a Cisco cloud product, a Cisco cloud security product, you get an email with a claim code. You type that claim code in, and the next thing you know, your product is able to be managed from the Cisco security cloud dashboard. Really, really simple way to get your products spun up. No need to rack and stack devices or boxes in order to manage your appliances. So real easy way to really quickly get your hands dirty with Cisco security products. Let's talk a little bit about secure access for a few moments. So starting over on the left-hand side, we've got users and offices, right? Those users, whether they're corporate employees or contractors, right, they're going to be at home, they're going to be in coffee shops, they could be in an airport, or if they're lucky, they're going to be sitting under a tree in a park, right? Folks are working from everywhere. Over on the right, we've got all of our applications. They could be internet applications, they could be applications in Azure or AWS or another public cloud, or they could be applications in one of our data center. How do our users on the left get to our applications on the right, right? They're typically going through either a VPN or they're accessing those applications through the Office network. The challenge there is that our our security policies are really fragmented, right? They're distributed. There might be policy drift, right? It's challenging to keep policies in sync, right? You might have an RA VPN head end in your one data center, and then you've got another data center, and that's got a RA VPN head end as well, right? Managing the firewall policy on both of those could be challenging. Managing the firewall policy on your enterprise network, you might not even have one, right? Everyone might just have access to everything, kind of like permit IP any. So this has been a challenge for as long as I've been a network engineer. What we do with secure access helps overcome that challenge. So this kind of goes over secure access and what its capabilities are. So if we look at the top, we see DNS security, L347 firewall, web gateway. You might look at this slide and think a lot of these look like umbrella functionality. And the fact is, you're right. Secure access is the next generation of Cisco umbrella. And when I say the next generation, we've added a couple of really awesome features that are just below in the center, right? We've added digital experience management because part of secure access is remote access VPN as a service. So we're moving your remote access edge to the secure access cloud. Why do we do digital experience management? Because your help desk is likely fielding calls from your end users about performance issues or about problems. Digital experience management allows your help desk to see into what's occurring on the end user's device. It allows us to see what's occurring on the device. It allows us to see what's occurring in the path from that device to the secure access cloud, to the SaaS application, or to your data centers. It gives us a significant amount of visibility into what's occurring. What's that powered by? It's powered by Thousand Eyes. Thousand Eyes is such an awesome tool. So I've been at Cisco for 6 years. Prior to coming to Cisco, I didn't have anything that helped me monitor what's occurring on the internet. I really knew what was occurring on my local network, right? I used SNMP. I monitored everything. But when folks ask me, hey, what's going out? This website's inaccessible. This application on the internet's inaccessible. I didn't have the insight that I needed. And digital experience management provided by Thousand Eyes natively in secure access is an awesome way for your help desk to understand what's going on. What else is there? There's device posture, right? We need to know that the not only is the end user who they say they are, but that device is compliant with what the business requires. So that device has firewall turned on. It's got anti-malware. Anti-malware is up to date. It doesn't have USB sticks, right? It gives us the ability to look into that device and assure that it's compliant. The core components, like I was saying a moment ago, of secure access are remote access as a service and ZTA, zero trust application access. We're going to talk about that in just a few moments when I do a demo. But the heart of zero trust, folks, is reducing what folks have access to and assuring that what your employees have access to is what they need and not giving them access to what they don't need. And this slide, I think, this illustrates it well for me. Users need access to the application, not the infrastructure. Think about your environment today. If your users are getting on the VPN or they're on an on-prem environment and your users or your users need access to, you know, www.yourapplication.com, but your users have access to the database servers and the application servers and the Kubernetes environments and all of the infrastructure that support that application, they don't need access to any of that, right? Your users need access to the website and the port. So give them access to the website and the port and deny access to everything else. Your users don't need access to the database servers or the application server. They don't need access to that, right? The heart of zero trust, the building blocks of zero trust are give them access to what they need and deny access to everything else.
I can tell you from a security perspective, the way that impacts the blast radius is just incredible. You know, all it takes is one bad actor to get on the VPN, and at that point, to Tim's point, you'd have access to everything under the sun that's available there. So from a blast radius standpoint, it's a great, easy way to sort of shore up what could be affected or what could be impacted.
Absolutely, Josh. You know, and just kind of piling on what you said, all it takes is one compromised device to get on the network, right? And as soon as that device is on the network, what's it start doing? It probes east and west to see what's on the local network, to what it has access to. It reaches out to command and control to find out what to do next. And look, we all have technical debt. And because we all have technical debt, maybe a lot of our applications aren't the most modern. They're not, fully patched. So reduce that blast radius, right? If the user only has access to port 443 on the web server, that's all the user can talk to, right? That protects your database servers. It protects your Kafka environments. It protects your RabbitMQ and your Redis and your Memcache, and it protects all those infrastructure services that support what they need access to. Um, so thanks for bringing that up. That's a really key point. Folks, not everything works with zero trust network access, though. Most things do, though. Most modern applications do. So if you're using a modern application, you're a-okay, ready to implement zero trust network access. If you're using multi-channel apps, let's say, right? If you're using applications that need to open up TCP ports and UDP ports across the spectrum, maybe not a good fit for zero trust, but still a good fit for VPN, right? And VPN as a service. If you're using server initiated apps where the server needs to open up ports to the client, open up dynamic ports to the client, not a real big use case, but I know applications that need that. Again, not a good fit for zero trust network access, but still works very well with secure access, remote VPN as a service. Long tail apps, right? We might have some legacy apps that do weird things, right? There's definitely still use cases for VPN as a service, and we cover that. I want to talk about a feature that I think is really important, that is also provided in the secure access umbrella, right? Is AI guardrails. Folks, everybody's using AI. Um, Everybody wants it, everybody needs it, and most everybody's using it. And how does your organization control what's being sent to an AI environment? ChatGPT, Copilot, a local Olama instance, right? We've got the ability in secure access to look for things like prompt injection, code injection, right? We can detect if you're trying to manipulate the model, if you're trying to go outside of what the model is programmed to do, we can detect that and stop it. We can detect and stop it in the prompt, and we can also detect and stop it in the response. We have the ability to look into privacy information, right? Routing numbers are there's a pattern in your bank routing number. We can identify that pattern if it's being sent to a model, and we can block it. We can look for bank account numbers. We can look for credit card numbers, right? We can look for all of these numbers. There's a pattern to them. We can identify that pattern, and we can stop your end users from uploading that private information to a model. And safety, right? If we're asking models to help us with harassment or hate speech, profanity, we can identify that information being sent to the model and block it. And we can also identify that data returning from the model, and we can block it, right? All of these guardrails are mapped to standards and frameworks like OWASP and MITRE. And we use those frameworks to help build out what we're doing with AI access. Um, how AI guardrails work. So a couple years ago, Cisco spun up a new team internal called the Foundation AI team. And there's a link down at the bottom of this slide if you're interested in learning about what they do and who they are. But they build a model, and we use that model to help in our AI access tool, which again is built into secure access. But again, we're looking for things that are sent to the model. We're looking for things that are returned from the model. This is all part of a DLP policy, right? Because think about it. We're trying to stop PII. We're trying to stop HIPAA. We're trying to stop information from being sent to the model that shouldn't be sent to the model. What is that? That's DLP. Folks, all of this data is encrypted, right? So in 2010, there was the HTTPS Everywhere initiative, right? 2014, Let's Encrypt was became a thing, and they started giving out certificates essentially for free, right? Everyone can get a certificate so that HTTPS is available to everyone. In 2018, Acme version 2 became a thing. And that really jump started the ability for web providers, web hosts, web applications to natively support HTTPS, to automatically renew their certificates. And as you can see, over time, according to the Google Transparency Report, HTTPS has just gone up and up and up. And right now in 2025, we're looking at like 93, 94% of the traffic that's traversing the internet is encrypted. Why is this a big deal? Because we really can't see into this encrypted traffic unless we decrypt it. Years and years ago, I wasn't a huge proponent of decryption. Decryption required really big boxes. It required a lot of certificate management for decrypting and then re-signing. Folks, secure access makes that whole process significantly easier, right? We don't need big boxes. Decrypt that traffic in the cloud. Let Cisco's secure cloud decrypt that traffic for you. You can write policy very easily around what needs to be decrypted and what doesn't, right? We don't need to decrypt websites that are highly trusted, right? We don't need to decrypt websites that include banking information or HIPAA information, but websites that might look a little bit more shady or might not have such a highly trusted reputation, let's decrypt them and see what happens. Let's decrypt that traffic that's going to your AI model and see what's being said. And how do we do all this, folks? We do it with Cisco's Secure Client, right? Secure Client is the next generation of Cisco AnyConnect. So there's a couple of models here that a couple of modules here that you may not be familiar with. First, we've got the Zero Trust module, right? The Zero Trust module is added when you configure secure access, and the Zero Trust module, the Zero Trust module helps look into what's occurring on the workstation to help identify that posture. It digs in deep and looks for certificates. It looks for firewall, right? And not only does it look for it, but if the firewall is turned off, we can turn things like that back on. What's secure endpoint? This may have heard of Cisco AMP in the past, right? Cisco AMP is our endpoint protection solution, right? It's our anti-malware solution on the endpoint. That used to be a separate application. Now it's built as a module right into Secure Client, right? Because the whole idea is we want a secure client. We've got a couple of other modules here that don't have a UI, Thousand Eyes, right? So our digital experience monitoring and management is built right into Secure Client as well. Doesn't have a module or doesn't have a UI, but it's there. We also have a cloud management module, our Dart module, right? If you've opened up a attack case ever about AnyConnect or Secure Client, you've likely been asked to create a Dart file, right? It's there. We just don't need the end user to see that. Looking a little bit more into the digital experience because I just think this is so powerful and such a game changer for not only us as network engineers, but for our help desk. That user sitting under a tree in a park, their user experience might not be the best. And when if they're at home and they're on a strong Wi-Fi signal, all right, it might not be a network issue, it might be an internet issue. But if they're out at the pool, if they're at a park, if they're at Starbucks, you kind of want to know those things. So, having the digital experience tool with your remote access VPN as a service, it really helps you drill down where is the problem, right? Is it the home network? Is it the Wi-Fi? Is it the endpoint? Is it the transit ISP? Is it the application? If you haven't used Thousand Eyes before, Thousand Eyes points fingers at the problem. There's not a whole lot of guessing. It points fingers at the problem and allows you to drill really fast into what the problem is, and it's authoritative. If Thousand Eyes says it's the transit ISP, you take a screen share, you send that to your ISP, and your ISP is already likely familiar with Thousand Eyes, already seen the dashboard, already seen these sharing tools, and they're able to take action on it. As I said, Thousand Eyes is built. Thousand Eyes and the experience management is built right into secure access. It's right there as a menu. I'll show it to you in just a few moments, but it's built right in. There's no jumping from one dashboard to another. It's all right there. Folks, I want to talk about Duo for a few moments before we jump into our demo. Um, for years, I've been saying that Duo is so much more than MFA. And the more that, and now I'm a security engineer, I've got the opportunity to really play with Duo more. As I've built up my home lab, I'm playing with Duo so much more. I've regularly said that I think ICE is one of the best Cisco products out there. I might be leaning towards Duo at this point. Duo gives us the ability to really control access, right? I've been an access layer security geek my entire life. This is access layer security, right? This is access to our applications. And when you integrate Duo with your applications that support SAML or OIDC or some other modern authentication protocol, you've got so much control over what and who and how your users are accessing applications. It's so powerful, and in my opinion, it easily holds its own against its competitors like Entra, Ping, and Okta. It's it's awesome. Why is it awesome? Because folks, passwords are while we still need to use passwords, passwords are fundamentally insecure, right? Have you been to Have I Been Pwned? Right? If you haven't, go there, type in your email address, find out where your passwords are on the internet, and you've likely been pwned in one breach or another. Unfortunately, I can't convince my whole family to use one password. So passwords are written down on documents. They're stored in insecure spaces. Passwords are reused frequently because it's easy. Passwords are insecure and there are better ways to do things. One of those ways is biometrics, and Duo allows you to use biometrics with modern applications. This just kind of goes over how Duo integrates with applications, with your modern SaaS applications, with your custom applications. And Duo is able to use any one of your existing IDPs, right? Duo is an IDP. Duo is able to be a primary factor and a secondary factor in your authentication process. But if you want to use another IDP as the primary factor, Duo can do that, right? Right now, I'm using Duo and I've got Duo connected to my on-prem Active Directory to get my users and passwords, right? And after my users and passwords and after that primary factor authentication occurs, then I can tell Duo to require a push, require a TOP, a TO, a time-based one-time password, a TOTP. I can tell it to use an HOTP or an HMAC one-time password, right? I can tell it require a Face ID or a biometric. This is really cool stuff, folks, and I'm totally geeking out over it because it's just really exciting and again, it's access layer security and it's all at your control. One of the other really cool features that I think in Duo, before we jump into demo, um, you can either log into your application right? Log into the SP, right? Log into the service provider, or you can log into your IDP. Duo and Secure Access both offer a portal where you can publish applications to your end users. So this further makes your end user experience easier. If you publish applications to your end user in a portal, here are all the applications that they need. And what's really awesome about this is when you publish those applications in either the Duo or the Secure Access portal, your users log into the IDP. That allows them to SSO seamlessly into the applications that are published already, right? This is an IDP initiated login as opposed to an SP login where your users are logging into the application directly, right? This is another really cool feature in Duo that I know is there. It's easy to configure, but I don't see it being used enough, right? Folks, Duo is so much more than MFA. MFA's yesterday. These features and some other ones that we're going to talk about in a moment, like passwordless OS login, passport, these are the features that you want to use in your environment to make your users have a seamless application experience. One of the other reasons I love Duo so much, and I'm comparing it with ICE, if you've seen an ICE live log, you know there's a substantial amount of information in the live logs. When I look at Duo logs, folks, there's a substantial amount of information. I can see all kinds of information about why users were required to do whatever it was they were required, right? If a user gets a push, this is why. If a user doesn't get a push, all of that information is right here in the Duo logs, right? Duo doesn't find a session with the remembered device, right? I hadn't established a valid device session, right? Duo's logs are rich with information about what's going on. So with that, I kind of want to jump into a demo. We've got a little bit of time left, so let's break out of our slideware. It looks like I've been logged out of Security Cloud, so we're going to log back in again. And folks, while this is logging in, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat. James is there to help out, answer any questions. Yeah, so now we're logged into Security Cloud Control. The first thing we see here is I've got some recommendations, right? These recommendations are brought to us by the AI Ops portion of Security Cloud Control. Security Cloud Control uses AI to evaluate the standing of everything that's occurring in your security cloud and makes recommendations, right? What we see here is, I've got two firewalls, right? Firewall 1 and Firewall 2. Both of them are running 760, right? We know that I think about a week or two ago, 762 became the suggested release. But what this is telling us is that there's some security advisories that this firewall is vulnerable to, and it's recommending that we upgrade. We'll dive into that in just a few moments. I manage these firewalls in Security Cloud Control, right? You may be managing your firewalls using an on-prem FMC, right, or an on-prem firewall management center. I manage these using CDFMC. So if we dive into firewall a little bit, right, we've got our firewall policies. Right, I've got a handful of different policies here. A staging policy is targeting 2 of my devices. My cloud FTD is targeting my primary firewall. We can dive right into that access control policy the same way that you would in your on-prem FMC. Let's just get this suggested release, right? We've got more reminders that a suggested version is available and we're not using it. But this access control policy is pretty simple, right? This is the same type of access control policy that you would normally see in your on-prem FMC. I'm permitting DNS, I'm blocking undesired URLs, right? Nothing too advanced. I want to flip back to security cloud control for a moment though. You'll notice down here in platform services, we've got shared objects, right? How many of you manage ASAs and next gen firewalls, and you've got objects that maybe point to the same IP address or the same network range, but those objects don't use the same name, right? If I go here to shared objects, we'll see a list of all of the objects that I've created, right? So we've got CGNet and Umbrella Bypass, a couple of dcloud objects. If we then go to my firewall and we go to objects, we see CGNet, Umbrella Bypass is down here. We see a couple of dcloud. Those shared objects that I just showed you in security cloud control are available to be used in all of the security products that are managed by security cloud control, right? What does that bring you? That brings you uniform object naming, right? If you've got an object that points to an IP address, the name is going to be consistent across all of your security devices. Why is that important? It makes troubleshooting easier. Why else is that important? It allows you to uniformly name objects in a way that's recognizable to you and everyone else. And that name, again, is carried across all of your security products. I don't want to talk about security or CDFMC too much because there's a couple of other products in here that I think are really exciting, and secure access is one of them. Although I will point out, this does, just like I showed you a moment ago on the slide, shows site-to-site tunnels. A couple of them are active. One of them is idle. All kinds of AI insights, right? We can dive into a lot of this, but let's jump into secure access because this is really special. I first want to start out with, how do we connect secure access, the secure access cloud to your environment? We go to connect, and then we go to network connections. In network connections tunnel groups, we've got some IPsec VPN tunnels. These IPsec VPN tunnels, one of them goes to my home net, which is my home data center, really just a couple of servers in my basement. But I've also got another tunnel to my ProtoVision environment, which is a lab that I work in Research Triangle Park at a Cisco data center. So I've got my secure access cloud connecting to two different data center environments. And in both of those environments, there are resources, there are applications, and I'm publishing those applications using ZTNA. Let's talk about how we integrate with an IDP. So, trick question. If you recognize any uniqueness in any of these users, post it in the chat window, and I'll throw a secure access shirt like this at you. How do we tie secure access with an IDP? We go in here into configuration management. So here I've tied secure access with my Duo environment. I set up a token, a provisioning URL, I click save, and it's done. Real easy to configure secure access to look at your IDP. And secure access supports just about every IDP, right? Duo, Entra, Ping, Okta, insert name of other third-party, modern IDP. We support it all. Next, I configure SSO authentication. And what this does, this allows me to SSO from secure access into applications. Let's move on. How do our end users get connectivity to our RAVPN? We build a VPN profile, right? And that VPN profile, we just get an XML file. That XML file is inserted into Cisco Secure Client. And what's really awesome about this is that this FQDN points to an Anycast address. So your users are going to hit the secure access cloud closest to where they are, which is going to give them a really good round trip time, a really good experience. Next, folks, I want to show you some private resources. So I've configured a couple of private resources here in my data center. I've got a DocWiki server. DocWiki is easy for me to spin up. It integrates real nicely with SAML. SAML integrates real nicely with Duo, right? This could be any resource in your environment. This could be Jira, Confluence, or insert name of other internal application that right now your users need to get on the VPN to get access to. Real easy to spin these private resources up. I give it a name. I tell Secure Access how to find that server, that web server, right? I've got an internally reachable address. I'm using my DNS server, my internal DNS server, to resolve that name. I then go down here. I tell it to use a URL in my domain, right? The URL that's publicly available on the internet now, because I'm exposing this to the internet, docwiki-11.timslab.fun, because labbing is fun. I have configured secure access with the certificate for that server, right? I'm using Let's Encrypt to obtain certificates. I then say, validate the certificate. I give it some or I tell it to look for the host headers, because maybe I'm using host headers because there's more than one website on a specific IP address, right? We're doing some cool things with our web applications. I've published this web server on the internet. So check this out, folks. This is zero trust. Let's minimize this. You'll notice I've got my IP chicken up here, right? This is going to show us where we are on the internet. I'm just going to do a refresh. You'll see that I'm on my home Fios connection. I've got a ping going on back here because, folks, I'm going to jump off of my home Wi-Fi and I'm going to get on my hotspot. You're not going to be able to see my screen for a few moments while I switch over. Ready? Let's switch over to the internet. Let's switch outside of my home firewall. Let's switch out onto the internet right now. So my ping just started failing. In a few moments, you should see my screen again. Josh, we tested this a few moments ago, sir. When you were able to see my screen again, let me know, please.
Will do. It was about 16 seconds earlier, so I'm hoping for the same kind of time frame here.
I'm getting ping replies back already, so it
And you're
should
back
be
live, Tim.
fantastic. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you giving me the heads up. To prove that I am not on my home network anymore, that I don't have VPN access, right? I don't have that site-to-site VPN access anymore. Let's just do a refresh. This is a IP address on my telephone hotspot. All right. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to pull up that wiki server. And again, folks, this could be any server that's typically required to be behind a firewall. So I actually expected secure access to prompt me for a login. It didn't, and here's why. This is Duo Passport, folks. I haven't logged onto this website in over a day, and I was hoping that it would expire, but it still hasn't. We're going to SSO into the website now. Folks, you can access this URL right now from your browser at home. I've publicly exposed this website to the internet, but when you go there, you're not going to see the website. You're going to see a Duo login prompt, because this website is only accessible after you've logged in through a strong reverse proxy, which is Duo, right? Duo's looking at the web server. I'm sorry, Duo's looking at the client to make sure that the client meets the posture that's required. So look, we just SSO'd into my one web server. Let's prove now that we can get to another, right? Again, this is using Duo's passport functionality, right? And that passport allows you to move from one application to another application inside of your data center. Log in here again. We're not being prompted for an authentication. Now, One of the things that's really awesome and really flexible about Duo is that you might have a server in your environment that requires a little bit of a higher level of security. So in Duo, you're able to configure a high security application, right? That might always require an MFA. So this is, Passport's still in effect, but I might need to do a Duo push, right? Um, I might need to verify I am who I say I am. So I'm going to accept that push now. We're going to get logged in. One of the other really awesome things about Duo that I want to show you before we drop is Duo Passport works outside of just the one browser that you're using, right? Duo's not using cookies to pass that authentication through. Duo is saving some information in your computer's TPM or in your computer's or in your Mac's secure enclave. It doesn't appear as if my new incognito window showed up. Josh, did we lose my share?
You're still with us.
Okay, there we go. Good. So, folks, I just opened up Chrome, right? A different browser, right? I just moved from Firefox to Chrome, and now I'm logging on to that same website. And again, no prompts. We're getting right in, right? This is what SSO really looks like. We're moving from browser to a different browser. If you have thick clients or thick applications in your environment, Duo's Passport will take that authentication that you've already done and move it to those other applications as well. Folks, this is the power of Duo Passport. It really enables true SSO for our users. Once you've authenticated, you just click the login button and that authentication passes through. You saw a moment ago, if you need additional higher levels of security, we offer that functionality as well. Yeah, this is the heart of ZTNA, folks. I want to go back and show you another slide or two real quick. If you have any questions, please feel free to jump out and let us know.
Chat's been quiet, Tim, but
Okay.
feel free to keep on posting or asking anything on the side of there.
That's our demo script. Folks, I saw this this image in Google's Gemini a couple of days ago, and I thought it really stuck with me because I think this helps tell the story that I'm trying to talk about today, right? If you take this cybersecurity leap with me, you're going to, the power and the control is all going to be at your fingertips, right? You're going to be the one who's guiding it with these tools. You're going to end up with a highly secure, highly resilient, easily managed environment, all powered by Cisco security. And I just think that's a really awesome thing. So I'm going to stop sharing. Folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. Get the pepper shaker out, folks, right? Pepper the questions out there. And I think James and I are both really excited about this technology. And if you don't have any questions now, but you want to talk about this later, please feel free to reach out to your account team. Please feel free to reach out to Josh or Ron, your account managers, and ask us to come on out and ask us to demo this. Ask us to talk about how you can leverage these security tools in your environment.
I think one other thing to mention in the whole presentation, Tim, it's a great example visually of what happens. Just understand that from a telemetry perspective, everything that Tim did is logged from the secure access attempts to get into the application. If you guys went out there and hit that URL, Tim is going to see that. right? He's going to see the failed authentications potentially through Duo. All those Duo pushes, the change from his home network to the hotspot, this is all logged. This will paint a huge picture of what your users are doing or trying to do. And when they are hitting roadblocks, why they're hitting a roadblock. Are they not presented with Duo? Are they trying to authenticate with a machine in Europe right now versus something in the US just by changing that IP address? So the telemetry behind everything that Tim showed is super detailed and paints a picture for you as an IT team of what's happening that the end users don't even need to understand.
I did have one question for James or Tim, whoever wants to speak to it. How does this work with non-employee type access? For example, if there's contractors or just folks that aren't maybe full-time employees.
I'm glad you brought that up, Josh, because so if you've got contractors, right, those contractors are using a browser. If you don't have the ability to manage that device, right? If you don't have the ability to look into that device, Secure Access has a really tight integration with Chrome Enterprise Browser, right? And if you're not familiar with Chrome Enterprise Browser is the same browser that you have now. It's just tweaked by the management of the browser. But Chrome Enterprise Browser allows, and you're able to use and implement and enforce the use of Chrome Enterprise Browser in Secure Access. And what that does is it gives the administrator more control over what's occurring in the browser when that application is being used. So, we can disable the ability to take screenshots of the browser, right? Let's talk about DLP, right? That's keeping what's your organization's in your organization's control. It gives us the ability to look more into the browser and into the posture of the browser. It gives us the ability to look into the plugins that are configured in the browser, right? Plugins have a lot of control of the browser. You might not want certain plugins to be enabled in your contractor's browser, right? So if you've got contractors, while we might not be able to install software on their computer, we can absolutely control what's occurring in their Chrome Enterprise Browser, and we can enforce the use of it.
So almost like a lightweight GPO for non-managed assets.
I think it's the key piece of that is lightweight and utilizing Duo's IDP. We don't need to burn an E3 or an E5 license for that identity. You can set them up as an individual user with their individual password outside of your normal IDP and keep them completely isolated away from the rest of your Office 365, Okta, Ping, IDP environments by utilizing Duo to create that connectivity.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great call out, James. By reducing, we again, I think Duo far surpasses some of the native tools that you get with Entra. Reduce your E5 license count. Duo's got that functionality. Duo does it better, and it's cheaper.
Very good. Well, as Tim mentioned, if there are any questions after the session today, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us that you see on the screen. You can also reach out to any of your Cisco contacts. They know how to find us. I'll go ahead and open it up for any last minute remarks from all of our presenters before we close out for the day. Silence is
None for me.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Well, folks, we look forward to seeing you on our next TAP session. We'll also post the recording from today on the metrophillyselect.com website. So if you didn't get to see the whole session, maybe you joined 30 minutes in, you can rewatch the beginning later this afternoon. But thanks again for joining, and everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, team. Bye now.